Thank you, Minister. And the next commencement matter is by Senator Robbie Gallagher. Senator, you have 4 minutes.
Minister, I'd like to welcome you here to the House this morning and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to take this commencement matter. Minister, as you know, I'm sure, red tape, form filling and unnecessary and complex paperwork is the bane of every single business in this country, notwithstanding, of course, the importance of due diligence and clear reporting to revenue. I think it's important that government would be cognizant at all times of the additional cost and additional staff involved in compliance at this present moment in time. And for someone who's been involved in a small business for the best part of 20 years, I can certainly relate to that. And even in the small business that I was involved in, one person could be employed full-time on compliance issues, and that is an additional burden on business in itself. But now, in addition to that, I would say that all companies, I would say the vast majority of companies and indeed employers may not be aware of the revenue-enhanced reporting requirements that come into effect or due to come into effect in the 1st of January next year, which is only a few short weeks away. And the net result of that will be that employers will have to make returns in real time to revenue when it comes to certain payments such as travel and subsistence, mileage, meals, remote working allowance, vouchers at Christmas, flowers sent on the birth of a child or retirement or an engagement or a wedding or whatever. And that would appear to me to be slightly over the top, to put it mildly. This enhanced requirement is going to add additional cost to business and it's going to tie up additional staff trying to comply with this measure. And I don't understand what the thinking is behind this. Perhaps, Minister, you might be able to shed a bit of light on that. But would you imagine that all expenses such as this, that they were reported on a yearly or a twice-yearly basis, it would suffice, rather than real time having to do that? Perhaps you might be able to explain what the thinking is there, because we always have to be conscious of the cost of doing business, and the cost of doing business, as IBAC recently highlighted themselves in a report that they did, is ever increasing as far as business is concerned. And when that comes to, say, the cost of doing business and in addition to, say, to the statutory 6 pay, which has increased, the minimum wage is increasing early next year, which is a good thing. Share options are being taxed on a payroll basis. The new auto-enrolment for pensions. All of these things are adding additional cost to business. Now, I understand that the Minister has to sign a commencement order for this to come into place by the 1st of January. So there is a small window there, perhaps, that maybe more information can be given to employers and companies about the effects of this coming in, and perhaps the reporting requirements, which I would feel are quite onerous, that they could be toned down a little, and that the requirement to account for everything to a bunch of flowers that you might send your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever the case may be, does appear to be over the top to me. And we always have to be cognizant of the fact that business is tough at the best of times, and we have to do, as government, as much as we possibly can to minimise the burden on business. And this this particular measure would appear to be going in the opposite direction to that. But listen, I welcome your comments to my commencement this morning, Minister. Thank you.
Thank
you. And thank you, Senator Gallagher. On behalf of the Minister for Finance, who would of course be signing the commencement order, he says that the new requirements under which employers must report to revenue certain non-taxable benefits paid to their employees or directors were introduced in Section 9 of the Finance Act 2022. These reportable benefits are the remote working daily allowance of €3.20, untaxed travel and subsistence payments, and qualifying incentives under the small benefit exemption. I'm concerned about what you're saying in relation to a bunch of flowers or so. I think it's probably worth clarifying a bit more. That doesn't seem like a business expense, but neither does it. It's clear that there's a bit more information needed, and I'll undertake to get that to you, Senator. The provision was made subject to a commencement order so as to allow sufficient time both for stakeholder engagement and IT developments. I think I note your request for a delay, but I think the Minister's intention is to sign it, that it would commence from the 1st of January 2024. but the objective of the reporting is to provide revenue with timely, quality data in support of service and compliance activities, and to provide information to assist the Department of Finance in policy-making considerations and tax expenditure reviews. There is obviously a cost to the Exchequer in terms of tax foregone in these tax exemptions, and although it isn't expected to be significant, the extra cost can't really be ascertained at the moment because there's no reporting to revenue in respect of such measures. Also, the additional data, which has certain compliance controls embedded at the reporting stage, will allow revenue further to develop and inform its compliance risk framework. And the idea there, of course, is to help target compliance contacts where required and minimise compliance interventions on compliant employers, and the associated costs both to the employer and to revenue of doing that. So preparations for implementation of the new reporting requirements have been a major project of work within Revenue for the past year, and there has been a major effort at stakeholder engagement over that time, with Revenue also investing in IT developments to facilitate the new requirements. Software developments and providers have been consulting with Revenue extensively over the past year and have invested in upgrading their products in anticipation of the implementation of the new reporting requirements from the 1st of January 2024. Revenue has engaged extensively with a wide variety of stakeholders over the past 12 months as part of the implementation strategy. That included a survey, but it also included direct engagements with employers, software providers, agents, representative bodies, beginning earlier this year and continuing more recently with wider stakeholder engagement through an extensive series of webinars delivered through September to December. There is also detailed guidance and FAQ material on the new requirements and filing mechanisms, together with informational videos that have been published on the Revenue website. Further guidance and information is provided in the recently updated Tax and Duty Manual, Part 380333. Revenue, in terms of actions to try to reduce the administrative burden on employers, Revenue has designed the reporting requirements to attempt to integrate seamlessly with the payment processes based on stakeholder feedback, and to try to get that working as efficiently as possible. Revenue has also confirmed that all three mechanisms for making the returns will be familiar already to employers, as they are the same for reporting payroll. For employers who do not use payroll or other financial software, a manual reporting mechanism is available through Revenue online service. Furthermore, Revenue has been and will continue to work with employers to help them in compliance with the new requirements. Ultimately, the new reporting regime doesn't impose any additional checks by employers to ensure that the conditions of relevant tax exemption have been met. The data being requested are high-level information which the employer would already have an obligation to record. Revenue understands that for the majority of cases, the reporting of the benefit or payment should align with existing business practices, and so they're satisfied that for the majority of cases, real-time reporting shouldn't significantly impact on business processes. But any change is difficult, and Revenue will be there to try to help facilitate this change over the next year.
Breakers, Anish and Seanad Gallagher.
And Minister, thank you very much for your response, comprehensive response. That does give me some comfort. Although a number of businesses that I've spoken to would appear to be unaware of the fact that this is coming in on the 1st of January. I welcome the fact that the Revenue will take a sympathetic and a understanding and a flexible attitude going forward in relation to this. But I think the key point here is that my main concern is small business. Large companies probably are in a better place to be able to handle an additional requirement like this, but small companies, small businesses with 3 or 4, less than 10 employees, it is additional time factor involved here, there is additional cost factor involved, and I think government needs to be very conscious at all times of the cost of doing business, and we should be introducing measures to limit the administrative burden on businesses rather than perhaps go in the opposite direction. So I think I would like to see a common sense approach adopted, not just to this measure, but indeed to the administrative burden on business that we put on from time to time. Thank you.
Before I asked the Minister to reply, IBEC last week had a briefing for us as members of the Oireachtas, and that was one of their points that they brought was about this matter that you raised this morning. So it's a very good point. Could I just welcome to the gallery members, just for members interested, guests in the House from the great state of Tennessee and other parts of the United States of America. They're here on a project to do with the film industry. I won't reveal too much more, but it's very appropriate you're here in the Seanad today, and I want to welcome you and thank you for being here in Ireland, and good luck with your project. So thank you for being here. And Tara?
Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and thank you, Senator. And you're exactly right. Anything that increases the administrative burden is difficult, particularly in the first instance, which is why it's important to have a flexible approach to begin with. But once you get into a new reporting practice, it tends to be embedded in the practices of the business. And if you can get to a point where more compliant businesses are being audited less frequently or having to draw less attention from revenue, there's a benefit in the long run for already compliant businesses. But I do appreciate that this is a new thing that is making, tax transparency enhanced, but it is a new requirement on businesses. And I do very, very significantly take the broader point that you've made in relation to small business and the supports that are important for small business. We have introduced a number of schemes which are important for society around sick pay, around different forms of leave, but they are difficult in many respects for small business to absorb, particularly businesses with fewer employees. And I recognise that, and there has to be a balance within that all of the time. We've made very significant improvements in general to the workplace environment, but we do have to recognise that small business are the engine of this economy, and we've got to support those too.